It all begins on a cool autumn morning in the heart of the bustling city. Lorie, a soft-spoken young woman in her mid-20s, has been riding the train to and from work for years, but today feels different. Her usual commute feels heavier, and she can't shake the lingering sadness from a recent breakup that has left her emotionally drained. As the train races along the tracks, Lorie stares out the window, the blurring cityscape matching the turmoil in her mind. She feels trapped in a life she's uncertain of, in a job that stifles her creativity, and in a heart that's still healing. Across from her sits Clarence, a man in his early 30s, impeccably dressed but clearly weighed down by his own burdens. His face shows the exhaustion of someone who has been battling inner demons for far too long. Clarence has recently quit his high-powered corporate job, walking away from a career that had once defined him. He's tired of the soul-sucking demands of the business world and is now floating in a limbo of uncertainty, trying to figure out his next move. His once clear sense of direction has been completely derailed, much like the course of his life. The train jerks suddenly, jolting both Lorie and Clarence from their thoughts. Their eyes meet for the first time, and in that brief second, something passes between them. There's a quiet understanding in their shared gaze, an unspoken connection between two people who are both lost in different ways. Though they don't speak, the moment lingers long after the train continues its journey. They part ways without exchanging words, but that fleeting connection stays with both of them. A few days pass, and Lorie tries to lose herself in her work as a graphic designer at a small, uninspired company. Though she is talented, her potential feels wasted in a job that doesn't challenge her or ignite her passion. She has dreams of creating art that truly matters, but fear of failure and the safety of her current routine keep her stuck. Her heart, still bruised from the recent breakup, adds to her sense of being adrift. Meanwhile, Clarence is in a similar emotional state. After quitting his job, he feels free but also directionless. He spends his days wandering the city, trying to figure out what he truly wants out of life. His resignation has left him with time, but no clear purpose. Like Lorie, he feels disconnected from the world around him, unsure of how to rebuild his life from the pieces of the past. Fate brings them together again when Lorie and Clarence cross paths at a local bookstore. Both are drawn to the same shelf, reaching for the same book, ironically, a self-help guide on finding one's true path. The awkwardness of the moment causes them to laugh, and the ice is broken. They strike up a casual conversation, discovering they have more in common than just their shared taste in books. As they talk over coffee afterward, Lorie and Clarence both open up about their struggles. Clarence admits that he's walked away from a successful corporate career but is unsure of what he wants to do next. Lorie, feeling comfortable in his presence, shares the frustrations she feels in her own career and the emotional pain from her recent breakup. They find comfort in the fact that they're not alone in their feelings of being lost and uncertain. That afternoon marks the beginning of a new connection between them, a tentative friendship that feels like it has the potential to become something more. In the days that follow, Lorie and Clarence begin to see each other more often. What starts as chance encounters turns into planned meetings, as they find themselves gravitating toward each other. They begin spending their weekends exploring the city together, visiting art galleries, strolling through parks, and discovering hidden cafes. Their conversations flow effortlessly, covering everything from their past heartbreaks to their dreams for the future. Lorie finds herself inspired by Clarence's decision to walk away from his old life, even though he doesn't have a clear plan for what comes next. His courage to break free from the corporate world and pursue something more meaningful resonates with her deeply. She starts to question her own reluctance to leave her uninspiring job and pursue her artistic ambitions. Clarence's belief that life should be about passion, not just success, challenges her to think beyond the constraints she's placed on herself. Clarence, on the other hand, is drawn to Lorie's quiet strength and her ability to see beauty in the world, even in the midst of her own pain. He admires her resilience and the way she channels her emotions into her art. Though she has been hurt before, Lorie hasn't let that stop her from dreaming of a better future. As their bond deepens, Clarence starts to feel like he's found someone who truly understands him. someone who sees past his exterior and accepts him for who he really is. There's a growing sense of attraction between them, but both are hesitant to act on it. They've each been hurt before and aren't sure if they're ready to open themselves up to love again. Still, the connection between them is undeniable, and it slowly begins to evolve into something more than just friendship. As the weeks pass, Lorie and Clarence become each other's confidants and biggest supporters. Lorie, emboldened by Clarence's encouragement, starts taking small steps toward her dream of becoming a freelance artist. She submits her work to various online platforms and even secures her first freelance job designing the logo for a small business. It's a modest start, but for Lorie, it's a huge step toward reclaiming her passion and her sense of self. Clarence, too, begins to find clarity in his own life. After spending time reflecting on what truly makes him happy, he decides to apply for a consulting position with a non-profit organization. It's a far cry from the high-powered corporate world he left behind, but Clarence realizes that he wants to use his skills to help others, not just make money. The idea of doing something meaningful with his life excites him in a way that his old job never did. Their relationship deepens as they celebrate each other's victories. Clarence attends one of Lorie's art exhibitions, proudly watching as she steps into the spotlight for the first time in years. Lorie, in turn, is there for Clarence as he prepares for his interview with the nonprofit, offering him words of encouragement and reminding him of his worth. One evening, after a particularly emotional day, they find themselves walking along the riverbank, bathed in the soft glow of the city lights. The conversation turns serious, and Clarence finally admits that he has developed strong feelings for Lorie. His confession catches her off guard, but in her heart, she knows she feels the same. However, the scars from her previous relationship make her hesitant to dive into something new so soon. Clarence promises Lorie that he's willing to take things slow, that he will be there for her no matter what. His honesty and sincerity touch her deeply, and though she's still afraid of getting hurt, Lorie allows herself to trust him. That night, they share their first kiss under the stars, the beginning of a new chapter in both of their lives, one filled with love, hope, and the possibility of healing. In the weeks following their first kiss, Lorie and Clarence's relationship blossoms, but along with it comes the natural anxiety that arises when two wounded souls attempt to rebuild their lives together. Lorie, despite her growing love for Clarence, cannot shake the insecurities that linger from her past heartbreak. Her previous relationship had left her shattered, and although Clarence is nothing like her ex, the fear of being vulnerable again terrifies her. She's happy, yet fearful of allowing herself to fully experience this new chapter. Clarence, on the other hand, is also struggling with internal battles. While his decision to leave the corporate world and pursue work that aligns with his values was a bold one, the transition hasn't been easy. The consulting work he's taken on for the nonprofit is rewarding but comes with challenges: unstable hours, less pay, and the stress of trying to build something from the ground up. Though Clarence believes in the cause, the weight of these changes bears down on him, making him question whether he made the right decision in leaving his old life behind. These individual struggles begin to manifest in subtle ways within their relationship. Lorie grows distant at times, caught in her own doubts about whether she deserves the happiness she feels with Clarence. She buries herself in her freelance design work, which, though it is a step in the right direction, leaves her emotionally drained and questioning her abilities. The freelancing world is competitive, and Lorie finds herself facing rejection after rejection. Each no chips away at her confidence, and she wonders if her decision to leave her stable job was reckless. Clarence notices the change in Lorie but feels helpless. His own frustrations with his new career leave him emotionally unavailable at times, and though he tries to be there for her, his own doubts keep him from fully engaging. They still care deeply for each other, but the cracks in their relationship begin to show. Both of them are battling their individual demons, yet neither feels comfortable fully leaning on the other for support, fearing they will become a burden. One evening, after a particularly tough day, Clarence arrives at Lorie's apartment, exhausted and irritable. Lorie, equally worn out from another day of rejections, greets him with a forced smile, and the tension between them is palpable. As they sit together on the couch, The weight of their unspoken frustrations hangs heavy in the air. It doesn't take long for a simple conversation to spiral into an argument. "I just feel like we're both drowning in our own lives," Clarence says, his voice edged with frustration. "We're supposed to be supporting each other, but it feels like we're drifting apart." Lorie, hurt but equally frustrated, snaps back. "I'm trying, Clarence, but you don't understand how hard this is for me. I don't even know if I'm good enough to make it as a designer. Maybe I made a mistake leaving my job. Maybe this whole thing is a mistake." Clarence's heart sinks at her words. "Are you saying we're a mistake?" Lorie, caught off guard by the intensity of the conversation, hesitates. "I don't know. I just don't know if I can do this right now." Silence fills the room, the gravity of her words hanging between them. Clarence, hurt and unsure of what to say, stands up and leaves without another word. It's the first real rift between them, and as Lorie watches him walk out the door, she feels the sting of regret but is too overwhelmed to chase after him. The days that follow are marked by silence between Lorie and Clarence. Neither one reaches out, both too caught up in their own thoughts to make the first move. Lorie throws herself into her art, trying to lose herself in the creative process, but the work feels hollow without Clarence by her side. She misses him, but her fear of being hurt again holds her back from reaching out. Clarence, meanwhile, spends his days immersed in his consulting work, using it as a distraction from the pain of their argument. He misses Lorie deeply, but he's also hurt by her suggestion that their relationship might be a mistake. The idea that he could be causing her more pain than happiness weighs heavily on his mind. Despite their separation, both Clarence and Lorie can't stop thinking about each other. They replay their conversations in their heads, wondering where things went wrong and whether there's still a chance to fix it. The love they have for each other is undeniable, but so are the insecurities that keep them apart. One evening, as Lorie sits in her small apartment, staring at the blank canvas in front of her, she feels an overwhelming sense of emptiness. She's poured everything into her work, but without Clarence, nothing feels right. She realizes that pushing him away was a mistake, that her fear of getting hurt again had blinded her to the love they shared. She knows now that she has to face her fears head-on if she's going to move forward. Meanwhile, Clarence has a similar moment of clarity. After a long day of work, he finds himself walking through the city, lost in thought. He passes by the park where he and Lorie had spent so many afternoons together, laughing, talking, and dreaming about the future. It's in that moment that he realizes how much he's been holding back, how much he's let his own doubts and frustrations get in the way of their happiness. He knows now that he can't let his fear of failure ruin the best thing that's ever happened to him. Determined to make things right, Clarence shows up at Lorie's apartment the next morning. His heart pounds in his chest as he knocks on her door, unsure of how she'll react. To his relief, Lorie opens the door, and though her eyes are tired, there's a glimmer of hope in them. "I'm sorry," Clarence says before she can speak. "I never should have walked out. I love you, Lorie. I've been lost, and I know you have too, but we can't keep running from each other. We're stronger together. I don't want to lose you." Lorie's eyes fill with tears, and she steps forward, wrapping her arms around him. "I'm sorry too. I've been so scared of getting hurt again that I pushed you away. But I love you, Clarence. I love you, and I don't want to lose you either." They hold each other for what feels like an eternity, the weight of their past few weeks finally lifting. In that embrace, they both realize that they don't have to face their fears alone. They can support each other, even in the darkest moments. The next few days are spent rebuilding what was nearly lost. They talk openly about their insecurities, their fears, and their dreams. Lorie admits that she's still struggling with her freelance work, but with Clarence by her side, she feels more confident in pursuing her passion. Clarence, too, opens up about his concerns with his consulting job, but together, they brainstorm ways for him to balance his desire for meaningful work with his need for stability. Their love, once tested, is now stronger than ever. They've faced the storm, and though the future is still uncertain, they know that as long as they have each other, they can weather whatever comes their way. With their relationship on solid ground once more, Both Lorie and Clarence find themselves growing not just as individuals, but as a couple. Lorie, inspired by her renewed sense of purpose, throws herself into her art with more passion than ever before. She starts to gain recognition for her work, and, for the first time, she feels like she's truly living the life she's always dreamed of. Clarence, too, finds his footing in the world of consulting. Though the work is challenging, he finds it rewarding in ways he never expected. He begins to take on larger projects, using his skills to make a real difference in the lives of others. With Lorie's support, he starts to believe in himself again, realizing that he doesn't have to conform to the traditional definitions of success to be fulfilled. Their love continues to grow, and as they walk hand in hand through the city that once felt so overwhelming, they know that they've found something truly special in each other. Life may have derailed them both at different points, but together, they've built a new path. One filled with love, hope, and endless possibilities. Just as Lorie and Clarence are beginning to settle into their renewed relationship, life throws them another curveball. While things are going well on the surface, the realities of balancing their personal lives with their career ambitions start to take a toll. Lorie's freelance work picks up momentum, and she's suddenly bombarded with new clients and commissions. What was once a trickle of work turns into a flood, and she finds herself staying up late into the night to meet deadlines. Though she's thrilled to be succeeding in her passion, the pressure starts to mount. Clarence, too, is facing increasing demands. His consulting work with the nonprofit is growing, and while he's proud of the impact he's making, the long hours and difficult decisions weigh heavily on him. He's no longer simply drifting through life, but the demands of his new career are greater than he anticipated. As a result, both Clarence and Lorie find themselves spending less and less time together, their busy schedules leaving little room for the deep connection they've built. At first, they try to make it work by scheduling date nights and setting aside time for each other, but the strain is evident. Their conversations become shorter, their time together more rushed, and the emotional intimacy they once shared begins to feel distant. Lorie, buried under a mountain of work, feels guilty for not being able to fully support Clarence. Clarence, equally busy, tries to be understanding, but the pressure of their respective careers begins to seep into their relationship. One evening, after a particularly long day, Clarence comes home to find Lorie still hunched over her laptop, working on yet another design project. He watches her for a moment, feeling the distance between them grow wider with each passing day. "We never see each other anymore," Clarence says, his voice tinged with frustration. "I feel like we're living in two different worlds." Lorie looks up from her screen, guilt washing over her. "I know. I've just been so busy. I didn't think it would be this hard." Clarence sighs, running a hand through his hair. "I'm not blaming you. I get it. I don't want us to lose what we've worked so hard to rebuild." Lorie's heart aches at his words. She doesn't want that either, but she doesn't know how to balance everything. Maybe we just need to take a step back, focus on our work for a little while and... "Take a step back from us?" Clarence interrupts, his voice sharp. "Is that what you're saying?" "No, that's not what I mean," Lorie quickly replies, "but the damage is done." Clarence stands up, the tension between them palpable. They've faced so many challenges already, but this one feels different. It feels like their love is being suffocated by the demands of the outside world. After their conversation, both Lorie and Clarence realize that they need to make a change before their relationship spirals out of control. They've come too far to let the pressures of life drive a wedge between them. That night, after Clarence has gone to bed, Lorie sits at her desk, staring at her unfinished project. She loves her work, but she loves Clarence more. The thought of losing him over something as trivial as work is unbearable. The next morning, Lorie makes a decision. She reaches out to some of her clients and asks for extensions on a few projects, giving herself more breathing room. She also decides to set stricter boundaries for herself. No more working late into the night. No more sacrificing her personal life for her career. It's a difficult decision, but she knows it's necessary. Clarence, too, reflects on their conversation. He realizes that he's been so focused on his new career that he hasn't been fully present for Lorie. The demands of his consulting work have consumed him, and though he's proud of the impact he's making, he knows that he can't let it take over his life. He decides to scale back on some of his projects, prioritizing his relationship with Lorie over the constant need to succeed. That weekend, they sit down together and have an honest conversation about what they both need. They agree to set aside time for each other, no matter how busy their schedules get. They also decide to take a weekend trip together, just the two of them, away from the city and the pressures of work. It's a chance to reconnect, to remind themselves of why they fell in love in the first place. The trip turns out to be exactly what they need. They spend their days hiking through the mountains, exploring small towns, and simply enjoying each other's company without the distractions of work. In the quiet moments, they talk about their dreams for the future, their fears, and their hopes. The emotional distance that had been growing between them slowly begins to dissolve, replaced by a renewed sense of intimacy. By the time they return to the city, Lorie and Clarence feel stronger than ever. They've learned that balancing love and career isn't easy, but with communication and compromise, it's possible. Back in the city, Lorie and Clarence put their new plan into action. Lorie, with her newfound balance, begins to thrive in her freelance career. She takes on projects that truly inspire her, and her work begins to gain recognition in the art community. She's invited to showcase her designs at a local gallery, a huge milestone in her career. The event is a success, and Lorie feels a sense of accomplishment that she hasn't felt in a long time. Clarence, too, finds success in his consulting work. He's able to take on meaningful projects that align with his values while maintaining a healthy work-life balance. He's no longer consumed by the need to prove himself, and instead, he focuses on making a positive impact in the world. His work with the nonprofit leads to new opportunities, and he begins to establish himself as a respected consultant in the field. But despite their individual successes, Lorie and Clarence never lose sight of each other. They make time for date nights, weekend getaways, and quiet evenings at home. Their love continues to grow, stronger than ever, as they support each other through the ups and downs of life. One evening, after a long day, Clarence surprises Lorie with a candlelit dinner at home. As they sit together, laughing and talking, Clarence reaches into his pocket and pulls out a small box. Lorie's heart skips a beat as he opens it to reveal a delicate ring. "I know we've been through a lot," Clarence says, his voice soft, "but I can't imagine my life without you. I love you, Lorie, more than anything. Will you marry me?" Lorie's eyes fill with tears, and she nods, unable to find the words to express how much this moment means to her. "Yes," she finally whispers, her voice filled with emotion. "Yes, Clarence, I will." The weeks that follow are filled with joy and excitement as Lorie and Clarence begin planning their future together. Their engagement is a testament to the strength of their love, a love that has endured through the challenges of life and emerged stronger on the other side. As they prepare for their wedding, Lorie and Clarence reflect on the journey that brought them to this point. They've both faced their own battles, but together, they've learned that love isn't about perfection. It's about support, understanding, and the willingness to fight for each other even when times are tough. Their wedding day is a beautiful celebration of their love, surrounded by friends and family who have watched them grow both as individuals and as a couple. As Lorie walks down the aisle, her heart swells with happiness. She's no longer the lost, broken woman she once was. She's found her strength, her passion, and her partner for life. Clarence, standing at the altar, feels a sense of peace he's never known before. He's no longer defined by his past or his career. He's found a new path, one filled with purpose, meaning, and love. As they exchange vows, promising to support each other through whatever life throws their way, Lorie and Clarence know that their story is just beginning. Together, they've weathered the storms, and now, they're ready to face the future hand in hand. After their beautiful wedding, Lorie and Clarence settle into married life. The honeymoon phase is as blissful as they imagined. Quiet mornings together, spontaneous adventures, and a deep, unwavering connection that seems unbreakable. However, as the weeks go by, they soon realize that even the strongest relationships are not immune to the pressures of everyday life. Clarence is offered a significant promotion at the non-profit organization where he works, one that requires more travel and longer hours. While it's an incredible opportunity for him to grow his career and make an even greater impact, it also means he'll be away from home more often. Clarence is excited, but also conflicted. He knows how hard they've worked to build balance in their lives, and he's worried that accepting the promotion will strain their relationship. Lorie, on the other hand, is proud of Clarence and wants to support him, but she also harbors fears of growing distant again. Her freelance career is booming, and while she's working from home, her own projects are becoming more demanding. The thought of Clarence being away for extended periods of time leaves her feeling anxious, though she tries to hide it. She doesn't want to hold him back from achieving his goals. One evening, as they sit on the couch discussing the opportunity, the tension between them becomes clear. Clarence expresses his excitement about the promotion, but Lorie's smile is tinged with hesitation. "It's an amazing opportunity, Clarence. I'm so proud of you," Lorie says, trying to sound enthusiastic. "But do you think it's going to be okay for us?" Clarence looks at her, sensing her worry. "I've been thinking about that too. I don't want us to drift apart again, but this is something I've worked so hard for. I don't know how to turn it down." Lorie bites her lip, torn between wanting to be supportive and fearing the potential strain on their marriage. "I just don't want to lose what we've built. We've come so far, and I'm scared that the distance could make things harder." Clarence reaches for her hand, his expression softening. "I understand, and I don't want to lose that either. But maybe we can find a way to make it work. Set boundaries, make time for each other, even if I'm on the road. I don't want to choose between my career and us." They both sit in silence, the weight of the decision hanging in the air. They know that it won't be easy, but they also know that they've overcome challenges before. This is just another hurdle they'll have to navigate together. Clarence ultimately decides to accept the promotion, and with it comes a whirlwind of changes. His first few trips are short, just a couple of days here and there, but as the months go by, his absences grow longer. At first, Lorie tries to keep herself busy with her work, pouring her energy into her projects. She believes that if she keeps herself occupied, the time apart won't feel so overwhelming. However, as Clarence's travel schedule becomes more demanding, Lorie finds herself struggling with the growing distance. They try to stay connected through phone calls and video chats, but it's not the same as having him there in person. Their once spontaneous, fun-filled evenings are replaced with brief, tired conversations late at night. Lorie finds herself missing the little things: Clarence's laugh, the way he'd make breakfast for her on weekends, and the comfort of simply having him by her side. One evening, after a particularly exhausting day of work, Lorie stares at her phone, waiting for Clarence's nightly call. When it finally comes, the conversation is strained. Clarence sounds tired, his voice lacking the usual warmth. He tells her about the challenges of his work, and while Lorie listens, she can't help but feel the emotional distance growing. "I miss you," Lorie whispers, her voice thick with emotion. "I miss you too, Lorie," Clarence replies. "I wish I could be there, but this project is really important." "I know," she says, swallowing her frustration. It's hard. I didn't think it would be this hard." Clarence sighs. "I didn't either, but I'll be home soon, and we'll figure it out." They hang up, but Lorie's heart feels heavy. She's starting to feel like they're living separate lives, and she doesn't know how to bridge the gap. She tries to stay positive, reminding herself that this is just a temporary phase, but deep down, she's beginning to worry that the distance is taking a toll on their marriage. As Clarence's work takes him further and further away, Lorie begins to feel increasingly isolated. Her freelance career continues to flourish, but even her successes feel hollow without Clarence there to share them with. She attends gallery openings and networking events alone, often coming home to an empty apartment. The loneliness starts to weigh on her, and she finds herself questioning whether they made the right choice in prioritizing their careers over their relationship. One evening, Lorie goes out with a group of friends to celebrate the launch of one of her new projects. It's a lively night, filled with laughter and excitement, but Lorie can't shake the feeling that something is missing. As the evening winds down, one of her friends, Jessica, notices Lorie's quiet demeanor. "Hey, are you okay? You've seemed a little off tonight," Jessica asks, concern in her voice. Lorie forces a smile. "I'm fine. It's just, Clarence is away again, and it's been hard. I'm happy with my work, but I miss him. I feel like we're drifting apart." Jessica gives her a sympathetic look. "Long distance is tough, even if it's just for work. But you two have been through so much already. Maybe you just need to find a new way to reconnect." Lorie nods, appreciating Jessica's words, but she can't help but feel overwhelmed by the growing emotional distance between her and Clarence. When she gets home that night, the apartment feels emptier than ever. She looks around at the space they once shared so happily, and for the first time, doubts begin to creep into her mind. Can their love withstand the constant separation, or are they slowly losing each other? As the months pass, the strain on their relationship continues to grow. Clarence's travel schedule shows no signs of slowing down, and Lorie finds herself becoming more withdrawn. Their once frequent calls become less regular, and even when they do talk, the conversations feel stilted. Both of them are exhausted from trying to balance their demanding careers with the emotional toll of their separation. One evening, after another lonely night, Lorie receives a call from Clarence. His voice is filled with tension, and she immediately knows that something is wrong. "I've been thinking a lot about us lately," Clarence begins, his tone serious, "and I don't know if this is working. I don't want to hurt you, Lorie, but it feels like we're both just going through the motions." Lorie's heart sinks. She's been feeling the same way, but hearing him say it out loud makes it all the more real. "I know," she admits, her voice shaky. "It's been so hard, Clarence. I miss you so much, and I don't know if I can keep doing this." They sit in silence for a moment, both of them grappling with the weight of their words. It's a heartbreaking realization, but they both know that something needs to change. "I don't want to give up on us," Clarence says finally, "but maybe we need to take a step back and figure out what we really want. I love you, Lorie, but I don't want us to keep hurting each other like this." Tears well up in Lorie's eyes. She loves Clarence, but she knows he's right. They've been trying so hard to make it work, but the distance has become too much. "Maybe you're right," she whispers. "Maybe we need to figure out what's best for both of us." They end the call, and Lorie feels a wave of sadness wash over her. For the first time, she wonders if their love, which once seemed so unshakable, might not be enough to overcome the challenges they're facing. After their difficult conversation, both Lorie and Clarence find themselves in a state of emotional limbo. They haven't officially broken up, but the distance between them, both physical and emotional, has never felt wider. Lorie, left to face the empty apartment and her growing feelings of loneliness, decides to take some time for self-reflection. She realizes that for too long, she's been trying to ignore her own needs and desires, putting Clarence's career first and hoping that things would magically work out. Clarence, too, is struggling. While he's thrown himself into his work to cope, the long hours and travel have started to take a toll on his mental health. He misses Lorie deeply but feels trapped in the commitments he's made to his career. Despite his success, there's an emptiness inside him that no amount of professional accolades can fill. Lorie decides to take some time away from the city to visit her parents in the countryside. It's a peaceful retreat, away from the noise and chaos of her daily life, and it gives her the space she needs to think about what she really wants. While she's there, her mother notices that something is weighing heavily on her mind. "You seem troubled, sweetheart," her mother says one evening over dinner. "Is everything okay with you and Clarence?" Lorie sighs, feeling the weight of her emotions bubbling to the surface. "I don't know, Mom. It's been really hard. He's away so much, and I feel like we're both drifting apart. I love him, but I'm not sure if love is enough to keep us together anymore." Her mother listens carefully before offering her advice. Love is important, but it's not the only thing that sustains a relationship. You both have to be willing to fight for it, even when it's hard. But it's also okay to acknowledge when something isn't working. The question is, are you both willing to do what it takes to make things better? Lorie contemplates her mother's words, realizing that she hasn't really been honest with herself or with Clarence. about how much she's been hurting. Maybe it's time for a real, open conversation about their future. Meanwhile, Clarence also begins to recognize the toll his work has taken on his relationship. He starts to question whether the sacrifices he's made for his career are truly worth it. Late one night, after another exhausting day of meetings and travel, he sits alone in his hotel room, thinking about Lorie. He picks up his phone to text her but hesitates. He knows they need to talk, but he's not sure if either of them is ready for that conversation. After spending time with her family and reflecting on what she truly wants, Lorie decides to reach out to Clarence. She sends him a message, asking if they can meet in person when he returns from his next trip. Clarence agrees, sensing that this conversation is long overdue. A few days later, Clarence arrives back in the city and heads straight to Lorie's apartment. The atmosphere is tense but not hostile. There's an underlying current of unresolved emotions between them, and both know that this conversation will determine the future of their relationship. They sit down in the living room, both nervous but determined to be honest with each other. Lorie is the first to speak. "I've been thinking a lot about us," she begins, her voice soft but steady. "I love you, Clarence, but I've been feeling really lost. The distance, the time apart. It's been harder than I thought it would be, and I don't know if I can keep going like this." Clarence nods, his expression somber. "I know. I've been feeling it too. I thought I could balance everything. My work, our relationship, but I realize now that I've been putting my career ahead of us. And it's not fair to you." Lorie looks down, her heart heavy with the weight of their shared struggles. "I don't blame you for following your dreams, but I also can't keep waiting for things to get better. I need more than just phone calls and text messages." Clarence reaches for her hand, his eyes filled with regret. "I don't want to lose you, Lorie. I've been so focused on my work that I've forgotten what's most important, you. I don't know if we can fix things, but I'm willing to try if you are." Lorie's eyes well up with tears as she squeezes his hand. "I want to try too, but we need to make some changes. We need to figure out a way to be together more, to prioritize our relationship." Clarence nods, determination in his eyes. "I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Maybe it means scaling back on my travel or finding a new job that doesn't demand so much time away. I just want us to be happy again." Their conversation is raw and vulnerable, but it's also a turning point. For the first time in months, they both feel like they're truly on the same page, ready to fight for their relationship. With their renewed commitment to making things work, Clarence and Lorie start taking concrete steps to rebuild their relationship. Clarence talks to his boss about restructuring his role so that he can work remotely more often, reducing the need for constant travel. He also makes it a priority to be home for important moments in Lorie's life, whether it's attending her gallery openings or simply spending more quality time together. Lorie, on the other hand, begins setting clearer boundaries with her own work. She realizes that she's been using her career as a way to distract herself from the loneliness she's been feeling. Now, with Clarence's support, she starts focusing more on her personal life, making time for the things that truly matter. They also make a pact to improve their communication, agreeing to be more honest about their feelings and needs. This leads to deeper conversations and a stronger emotional connection than they've had in a long time. One weekend, Clarence surprises Lorie by taking her on a spontaneous getaway to the countryside, the same place where she had spent time with her parents. They hike through the scenic trails, have picnics by the lake, and spend their evenings talking by the fire. It's a chance for them to reconnect without the distractions of work and daily life, and it reminds them of why they fell in love in the first place. As they sit by the fire one evening, Clarence turns to Lorie, a soft smile on his face. "I know things haven't been easy, but I'm really grateful that we're here together, working through it. I love you more than anything." Lorie leans in, resting her head on his shoulder. "I love you too, Clarence, and I'm glad we didn't give up on each other." With their relationship on the mend, Clarence and Lorie move forward with a newfound sense of hope and purpose. They've learned that love isn't just about the good times, it's about weathering the storms together, even when it feels like everything is falling apart. They continue to prioritize their relationship, setting aside time for each other and making sure they stay connected, even when life gets busy. Their love has deepened, not just because they've overcome challenges, but because they've grown as individuals and as a couple. Months later, Clarence receives another promotion at work, but this time, he declines the offer to avoid the travel that would have kept him away from Lorie. Instead, he chooses a different path, one that allows him to be closer to home and focus on the things that truly matter. He and Lorie also begin planning for their future together, discussing the possibility of starting a family and continuing to build a life rooted in love and understanding. As they sit on their balcony one evening, watching the sun set over the city, Lorie turns to Clarence with a content smile. "I'm happy, Clarence. I'm really happy." Clarence wraps his arm around her, pulling her close. "Me too. We've been through a lot, but we've come out stronger." Lorie nods, feeling a deep sense of peace. They've faced their share of hardships, but through it all, their love has endured. And now, as they look toward the future, they know that whatever comes next, they'll face it together, stronger, wiser, and more in love than ever. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the story. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more delightful stories.